I was just a week away from marrying Natalie, my girlfriend of 5 years. The venue was booked, invitations sent, and my custom suit tailored to perfection. As an architect, I had even designed elements of our wedding space myself. Everything was set for our perfect day until a text message changed my life forever. A video from her bachelorette party in Las Vegas showed her kissing another man, my fiancé, still wearing the engagement ring I had saved for months to buy. In that moment, I made my decision. I would leave without saying a single word. Before I tell you how I discovered the truth and what happened after I disappeared from her life, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button if you have ever had to make a difficult choice to protect yourself. I met Natalie at my college friend Derek's housewarming party 6 years ago. She arrived with a mutual friend, and I was immediately drawn to her confident laugh and the way she commanded attention without demanding it. With dark hair that framed intelligent eyes and a smile that lit up the dimly lit apartment, she was magnetic. When our conversation about travel ambitions stretched from minutes into hours, I knew there was something special between us. Our early relationship was everything I had hoped for. We moved from casual dating to a committed relationship within months. Natalie supported my long hours as I established myself at a prestigious architecture firm, and I cheered her on as she climbed the ranks in her marketing agency. We balanced each other perfectly, her outgoing nature complementing my more thoughtful approach to life. When we moved in together after 2 years, it felt like the natural progression of a relationship headed toward forever. After 4 years together, I proposed on a rooftop garden I had secretly designed at her favorite restaurant. I spent months coordinating with the owner, creating a space with all her favorite flowers and a pergola that framed the city skyline at sunset. When she said yes, tears streaming down her face, I believed we were solidifying a foundation that would support us through anything life threw our way. The wedding planning consumed the next year of our lives. Natalie had specific visions for everything from the hand-calligraphed invitations to the locally sourced menu. I was happy to let her take the lead, only stepping in for the architectural elements of the venue setup. We selected a historic building downtown, a former library with soaring ceilings and intricate woodwork that I knew would photograph beautifully. Her parents contributed significantly to the budget while mine handled the rehearsal dinner and honeymoon arrangements. Everything was coming together seamlessly, at least on the surface. Looking back, I can now recognize the warning signs I chose to ignore. At company parties, Natalie would sometimes disappear for long stretches, returning with slightly smudged lipstick and vague explanations about running into old friends. There were unexplained charges on our credit card statement that she would dismiss as girls' lunches or work expenses she would be reimbursed for later. Her phone was increasingly guarded, always face down or quickly locked when I entered the room. But the most significant red flag was her friend group, especially her maid of honor, Jessica. A holdover from her wild college days, Jessica never seemed to fully support our relationship. Her comments were always just this side of appropriate veiled criticisms wrapped in feigned concern. "Are you sure you want to settle down so young?" she would ask Natalie when she thought I could not hear. Or to me directly, "Natalie has always been such a free spirit. I am surprised she is ready for the whole marriage thing." When Jessica announced she was planning a 4-day bachelorette extravaganza in Las Vegas, I felt a knot form in my stomach. It seemed excessive for a girl who had claimed she wanted a simple celebration with close friends. The guest list expanded beyond bridesmaids to include women I had never met, former coworkers and college friends who had not been part of our lives for years. "It will be fine," Natalie assured me when I expressed mild concern. "Just some spa days, nice dinners, maybe a show. Nothing crazy." But the budget Jessica outlined told a different story, with VIP club reservations and exclusive pool parties that seemed designed more for finding new connections than celebrating existing ones. The week before the wedding was chaotic. Final vendor payments, last-minute RSVPs, family members arriving from out of town. Through it all, Natalie seemed increasingly distant, more engaged with her phone than our final preparations. The night before she left for Las Vegas, we sat on our balcony sharing a bottle of wine. "I am going to miss you," I said, taking her hand. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "It is just a few days. Then we have the rest of our lives together. Just. Have fun, but stay safe," I said, trying to sound supportive rather than anxious. "Do not worry," she replied, kissing me lightly. "I will behave." Something about the way she said it made my stomach turn, but I pushed the feeling aside. I trusted her. We were getting married in a week. My own bachelor party was a simple weekend at my friend Thomas's cabin by the lake. Just 6 of us fishing, grilling, and sharing stories around the fire. I would focus on that instead of worrying about what was happening in Vegas. My bachelor party ended early on Saturday night. After a day of fishing and hiking, most of the guys were exhausted and turned in before midnight. I sat alone on the cabin's porch, watching the moonlight ripple across the lake and thinking about how my life would change after the wedding. Around 1 in the morning, my phone lit up with a text from Ryan, a friend from college who knew both Natalie and me, but had not been able to attend my bachelor weekend. "You need to see something. I am sorry, man." What followed was a video that shattered my world in 13 seconds. Natalie in a crowded nightclub, her arms wrapped around a tall stranger with a model's jawline and a confident smirk. She was laughing up at him, clearly intoxicated, but not out of control. And then they kissed, not a quick mistake, but a lingering, passionate embrace. Her left hand complete with my grandmother's refurbished diamond ring tangled in his hair as she pulled him closer. My hands shook so badly I dropped the phone. Bile rose in my throat as I stumbled to the cabin's bathroom, barely making it before I became physically ill. When I returned to the porch, there were more messages from Ryan. "I am at Apex for a client event. Saw them together and thought you should know. There are more photos if you need them, but I would not look if I were you. Call me when you can. Again, I am so sorry." I sat frozen for 20 minutes before I could bring myself to call him. Ryan answered immediately. "Tell me everything," I said, my voice barely recognizable. Ryan sighed heavily. "I was hosting clients at Apex when I saw her. At first I thought it was just a girls' night, but then this guy kept showing up in their area. The bridesmaids were running interference, keeping other people away, while Natalie and this guy got closer." "Could it have been just one drunk mistake?" I asked, desperately searching for an explanation that would hurt less. "Ian, I saw them together Thursday night too, at a different club. I did not think anything of it then because I only caught a glimpse. But after tonight," he paused. "One of my clients recognized her from the Thursday club and mentioned how that hot brunette was back with the same guy." The realization that this was not a one-time mistake but a deliberate choice over multiple nights crushed whatever hope I had been clinging to. "The bridesmaids?" I asked. "All in on it. Jessica was practically standing guard. When she saw me watching, she tried to block my view. After hanging up with Ryan, I spent hours scrolling through social media, finding carefully cropped photos from the trip that showed the bridesmaids but conveniently excluded Natalie during evening activities. There were photos of spa days and brunches with everyone present, but the nighttime posts only showed the group of girls with captions like "Girls' Night Out" and "Vegas Baby." All while Natalie had been texting me things like, "Miss you, having a blast with the girls, and cannot wait to be your wife." The betrayal was not just Natalie's. It was Jessica's, the bridesmaids, and everyone else who knew and helped hide it. They were all willing to let me walk into a marriage based on lies, to stand beside us at the altar while carrying the secret of what had happened just days before. As dawn broke over the lake, I had not slept. The initial shock had given way to a cold clarity. This was not about a mistake or a moment of weakness. This revealed Natalie's character, her true nature hidden beneath the perfect fiancée persona. The woman I loved, or thought I loved, did not exist. I considered my options through that long night. I could confront her, demand explanations, maybe even try to forgive her if she showed true remorse. We could postpone the wedding, seek counseling attempt to rebuild trust. Part of me, the part that had planned a future with her, wanted to find a way forward. But a stronger voice inside me knew that any confrontation would only lead to half-truths, tears, and manipulation. She would minimize what happened, blame the alcohol, promise it would never happen again. And I would always wonder, always be watching for the next betrayal. The wedding was in 7 days. Guests were already arranging travel. Deposits had been paid. But none of that mattered now. I realized there was only one path that would allow me to maintain my self-respect. I needed to walk away completely, without a single word of explanation. She had not respected me enough to be faithful days before our wedding. I would not give her the satisfaction of explanations, arguments, or closure. As the sun rose fully over the lake, my decision was made. I would disappear from Natalie's life before she even returned from Las Vegas. I drove back to the city Sunday morning while Natalie was still in Las Vegas, scheduled to return that evening. The clarity of purpose was almost calming as I formulated my plan during the 2-hour drive. My first call was to Thomas, the one friend I trusted completely. "I need a place to stay, and your complete discretion," I said briefly, explaining what had happened. "My spare room is yours. For as long as you need it," he replied without hesitation. "Come straight here." But first I needed to return to the apartment Natalie and I had shared for the past 3 years. I had roughly 8 hours before her flight landed to remove all traces of myself from our life together. I parked in the underground garage and took the service elevator to avoid any neighbors who might mention seeing me to Natalie later. Inside our apartment, everything looked exactly as we had left it. Half-packed honeymoon suitcases in the corner. Wedding gifts stacked neatly on the dining table. A bottle of champagne in the refrigerator that we had been saving for when we returned from the ceremony as husband and wife. The domesticity of it all, knowing it was built on falsehood, made my chest physically ache. I moved methodically through the rooms, gathering only what was irreplaceable or unquestionably mine. Important documents: first birth certificate, passport, personal financial records, car title. I found the folder containing my individual tax returns from before our relationship and the deed to a small piece of land my grandfather had left me. From my closet, I took only enough clothes to get by for a couple of weeks. I left my tuxedo hanging there, the final fitting ticket still pinned to the sleeve. In the bathroom, I gathered my toiletries, carefully wiping down the counter to remove any water spots or stray hairs erasing evidence of my presence. Our shared office was trickier. I copied essential files from the desktop computer to an external drive, but left all the wedding planning documents intact. I took my professional architecture journals and specialized drawing tools, but left the furniture we had purchased together. I called my parents next, keeping the explanation brief but clear. "The wedding is off. I found out Natalie has been unfaithful. I am leaving before she returns from her bachelorette party and will explain more later. Please do not tell anyone where I am for now." My mother's shocked gasp and my father's stunned silence were painful to hear, but they promised their support and discretion. They would notify our family members without sharing details. Next, I visited the building manager's office and left an envelope containing a note explaining I was moving out immediately due to personal circumstances, along with a check covering the next month's rent to give Natalie time to decide what she wanted to do about the lease. I called my boss and requested emergency personal leave, providing no details except that the wedding was canceled. Years of dedicated work had earned me his unquestioning support. "Take whatever time you need, Ian." Back in the apartment, I changed all my passwords, email banking, streaming services, everything we had shared. I contacted our joint bank and had my portion of the funds transferred to a new account at a different institution. I removed myself from our shared credit cards and utilities. The hardest part was the ring. The engagement ring was on Natalie's finger in Vegas, but her wedding band was in a blue velvet box on her dresser waiting for our ceremony. Beside it lay the antique locket I had planned to give her on our wedding morning, containing a photo of us from our first vacation together. I left both untouched. I did, however, open her jewelry box and placed my own wedding band inside a silent statement that needed no words. No note, no explanation. The platinum ring sitting there alone would say everything necessary. With my essential belongings packed in 2 suitcases and a duffel bag, I took one final walk through the space that had been our home. Each room held memories now tainted: the kitchen, where we had cooked Sunday brunches; the living room couch, where we had binge-watched series and planned our future; the bedroom where I had believed our intimacy was exclusive and sacred. At the door, I took a deep breath and placed my key on the entryway table. With a quiet click, I pulled the door shut for the final time, locked it from the outside, and slipped my key into the apartment mailbox. By 10 in the morning, I had arrived at Thomas's apartment across the city, my former life abandoned in less than 5 hours. I turned off my phone before Natalie's plane even landed, knowing the messages would start soon. Thomas provided emotional support without prying, making it clear his home was my sanctuary for as long as I needed. That night, as Natalie was undoubtedly discovering my absence, I slept dreamlessly for the first time in days, exhausted by grief, but certain of my decision. The wedding day itself passed in seclusion. Thomas went to work reporting back that gossip was already spreading through our social circle about the mysteriously canceled ceremony. I spent the hours that should have been my wedding day, beginning applications for positions at architecture firms in other cities, casting a wide net from Chicago to Seattle. Anywhere that would give me a fresh start, away from the life I had thought I would be living. 3 months passed, in what felt like both an eternity and an instant. Chicago welcomed me with anonymity and opportunity. My firm's branch office there had an opening in their commercial division, and my portfolio of successful projects made the transfer smooth, despite the personal circumstances behind my request. I found a modern one-bedroom apartment in a high-rise downtown, its clean lines and blank walls, a canvas for my new beginning. In those early weeks, Natalie's attempts to contact me were relentless. When my phone remained off, she emailed, messaged friends, even called my parents. Thomas reported that she had shown up at his apartment twice, first tearful and pleading, then angry and demanding. I maintained my silence, communicating only through a lawyer who handled the logistics of separating our lives, returning her possessions, dissolving our shared investments, canceling wedding arrangements. Through mutual friends, I learned the narrative Natalie had created to explain our broken engagement. According to her, I had developed cold feet and abandoned her without warning or reason. She portrayed herself as the victim of my sudden and inexplicable departure, never mentioning Las Vegas or the man she had been with. For a while, this version gained traction, with acquaintances reaching out to express their disappointment in my supposed cowardice. The truth emerged gradually. Ryan eventually shared what he had witnessed. With our closest friends, and the unified front of bridesmaids began to crack under direct questioning. Jessica remained loyal to Natalie, but 2 other bridesmaids privately confirmed the infidelity to mutual friends. Within our social circle, sides were taken, friendships dissolved, and the carefully constructed wedding party splintered into factions. I remained above the fray, focusing instead on rebuilding. My new position challenged me professionally with larger projects and greater creative freedom than I had been allowed in my previous role. I established routines that supported healing morning runs along Lake Michigan, evening architectural sketching at local coffee shops, weekend explorations of my new city. I found a therapist specializing in betrayal trauma, who helped me process the abrupt ending of my relationship without letting it harden into bitterness. The goal is not to stop trusting, Dr. Patel told me during one session. It is to trust wisely, including trusting yourself, to recognize authentic connections. 6 months after moving to Chicago, I unexpectedly ran into Jessica at a national design conference. I was presenting a panel on sustainable urban planning when I spotted her in the audience representing her marketing firm. The sight of her sent a jolt of adrenaline through me, but I completed my presentation without faltering. Afterward, she approached me in the convention center hallway. "You look good, Ian," she said, her confidence slightly dimmed compared to our previous interactions. "Natalie still asks about you sometimes." "I have nothing to say to either of you," I replied calmly. "You could have at least talked to her before disappearing," Jessica persisted. "Do you know what that did to her? Do you know what you did to me?" I asked, meeting her gaze directly. "You watched your best friend cheat days before our wedding and helped her hide it. You were going to stand beside us at the altar, knowing what she had done." Jessica's composure cracked slightly. "It was not my place to interfere." "Then it is not your place to judge how I protected myself," I said, turning to leave. "She was not even the first, you know," Jessica called after me, a final twist of the knife. "There were others before Vegas. I told her she should have ended things with you cleanly instead of going through with the wedding, but she insisted she wanted both worlds." I walked away without responding her revelation, confirming that my decision to leave silently had been the right one. The relationship had been built on deception much longer than I had realized. The conference also brought unexpected positive developments. My presentation caught the attention of a sustainable design firm looking to expand their architectural division. Within weeks, I had accepted a partnership offer that aligned perfectly with my professional goals, cementing my new life in Chicago. 1 year after I had walked away from my wedding, I met Leah, a landscape architect collaborating on a mixed-use development I was designing. She approached our first meeting with insightful questions and thoughtful challenges to my initial concepts. Our professional relationship evolved into lunches discussing design philosophy, then dinners exploring broader interests. Her authentic nature and direct communication style were refreshing after years of unrecognized deception. When our relationship began turning personal, I was transparent about my past, Over dinner at a quiet restaurant overlooking the river, I shared the full story of Natalie, the almost wedding, and my decision to leave without words. That must have taken enormous strength, Leah said when I finished. Not the leaving itself, but resisting the urge to confront to make her understand how much she had hurt you. Sometimes silence is the only response that preserves your dignity, I replied. Anything I said would have been twisted or used against me. Or worse, I might have been manipulated into forgiveness I was not ready to give. Leah nodded thoughtfully. I understand that better than you might think. She then shared her own experience with betrayal. A long-term boyfriend who had led a double life with another woman in a neighboring city for years. When I found out, I made the mistake of demanding explanations, closure, apologies. All it did was give him opportunities to manipulate me further and rewrite our history. Our shared experiences with betrayal created a foundation of unusual honesty between us. We moved forward cautiously, both valuing transparency above all else. When I was triggered by seemingly small things, a delayed text response, or an unexplained change of plans, Leah responded with patience and consistent reassurance. Similarly, I worked to earn her trust through reliability and open communication. 18 months after what would have been my wedding day, I found myself in a relationship healthier and more authentic than anything I had known before. The pain of Natalie's betrayal had not disappeared entirely, but it had transformed into something valuable, a sensitivity to dishonesty that served as protection rather than limitation. Looking back, I recognize that walking away silently was as much about respecting myself as it was about denying Natalie the opportunity for excuses. By refusing to engage in the drama she created, I maintained control over my own narrative and healing process. The initial judgment from those who believed I had abandoned her without cause was temporary, while the peace of knowing I had acted with dignity was permanent. I have since learned that Natalie and the man from Las Vegas dated briefly after my departure, but quickly fell apart under real-world pressures. According to mutual friends, she has cycled through several relationships, none lasting more than a few months. Jessica eventually admitted to another friend that Natalie struggles with commitment, always believing something better might be around the corner. Forgiveness came gradually, not because Natalie deserved it, but because I deserved peace. The anger that once consumed me has faded, replaced by a simple acknowledgement that her actions reflected her character, not my worth. I no longer waste energy wondering what I could have done differently. Some people are not ready for the commitment they claim to want, and no amount of love or patience can change that fundamental truth. The unexpected outcome of this painful chapter was discovering my own resilience and capacity for growth. By honoring my worth enough to walk away from betrayal, I created space for authentic connection and greater happiness than I had previously imagined possible. Sometimes the most powerful statement requires no words at all, just the courage to choose yourself when someone else has not. Have you ever had to walk away from someone who betrayed your trust? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of resilience and self-discovery. Consider sharing this video with someone who might need to be reminded of their worth today. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most necessary growth and unexpected blessings.